Welcome to the Superhero Sidekick Leadership Coaching Podcast with Joel Smith and Joe Baker. We're here to help you develop your superpowers. This is the Superhero Sidekick Coaching Podcast. I'm Joel Smith.
I'm Joe Baker. We're not here to be the superhero. We just want to be your sidekick and help you along in building your business, building your not-for-profit. Let's help you grow it fast and really scale.
Be sure to check us out on Facebook and visit us at superherosidekick.com. This is the Superhero Sidekick Coaching Podcast. I am Joel Smith, and I am a professional coach. I love to talk about leadership, and my co-host, Joe Baker, is here. And Joe, I know you love to coach as well, but you take a little different slant. Tell us just a little bit, what do you love to coach about? What's your topic?
Yeah, my favorite topic to work on is helping people raise money, and then actually helping people achieve their goals and putting together a plan in place to actually hit different mile markers and achieve their big dreams. So
nice.
That's what gets me out of bed.
Speaking of big dreams, so we have a guest on our show today, and Joe, I'm going to let you introduce him, but he's a guy that's accomplished a lot of really cool things and is living his life on purpose the way that he intentionally meant to live it. So Joe, tell us about your friend, Chris.
Yeah, me and Chris have been friends now for about 6 or 7 years, something like that. And I had invited Chris on a trip to Zion National Park, where we descended down some slot canyons, and we just had a ball, exploring the park. And that was always my concept of fundraising. If I get people out on adventures, I could really get to know them more. And so Chris joined me on this awesome trip. And then after that trip, we were driving back in this actually a convertible that we had rented as we were driving back to the airport in Las Vegas. And right in front of us, this guy crashes his trailer, and the whole trailer had tipped over. And so we pull over and not really sure what to do, but this guy, you can tell this guy is having a sad day, because it was one of those trailers, the tow behind trailers, and the whole trailer had turned on its side, and the guy's standing in the road. And I just remember seeing Chris. He's like, "Guys, I got to do something quick here." And I watched him pull all the cash out of his wallet and run out there and pop out around the trailer and say, "Hey man, I got this for you. I know you're having a bad day." It puts it in the guy's hand and it says, "Catch you later," and runs back and jumps in the convertible. And I was like, wow, this is one unique guy to do that. But when the spirit is over somebody like Chris, man, he just goes for it. And do you remember that, Chris? That was crazy.
Yeah, I remember it, and now I feel like if more people hear the story, they're going to start following me around crashing trailers so that they hope to get a big payday.
Yeah.
But no, I remember that, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I felt compelled to do something to ward off, just a time of suffering, and I don't always do that, but sometimes you feel called to do something.
Yeah. And I think that's so much of what we're going to talk about today, is that, sometimes you're called to be generous, and you just step up and you do it. And that's what I saw. And that was a huge testimony to me.
We were talking about generosity before the show a little bit, and it's interesting because when it hits you and you know that this is your time to give, it doesn't even feel so much like a sacrifice. It just feels like something you want to do. It's a different thing. Sometimes when we give, it's like, oh man, it's like you got to rip it out of my hands, but I'll do it. But I think what you were describing with your moment with Chris was, Chris, that wasn't a burden to you at that moment. You just saw a need and felt something for your human brother. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say it was either that. It was also about 130 degrees out in the desert, and so maybe I was suffering from some heat stroke. But it's one of the two. It's definitely one of the two.
Yeah, and so Chris, you tell us a little bit about your philosophy of giving and investing within your business, within the people of your business. I've always learned to see you as a man that just has been incredibly generous, been very generous in our partnerships. And just share a little bit about that.
Well, it's, I think people are constantly challenged or confused why I give and when I give, or, even in the sense of out in the desert, giving a bunch of money to a stranger who just came about a really unfortunate accident. I always look at it as an investment, and, sometimes a small investment can ward off, a huge problem. Sometimes it can't. I don't think money solves all problems. Sometimes people need to suffer, but in that moment, out in the desert, I saw, a man that was going to potentially have a lot of days of suffering and possibly bad outcomes because of, something that is unfortunate. And, if a few $1,000s could eliminate that or help mitigate that, that's a few $1,000s on someone's soul and someone's family and a marriage that could be, changed, for the better. And so, in business, there's a huge investment into your vision and your goal. And, I think the same thing with giving, for things that, what I would say for the kingdom, it's you're investing for an outcome that you believe will make, the world a better place and heal hearts and change minds and, ultimately serve God's kingdom.
Well, Chris, how do you how would you say that that we should make generosity one of the central pieces to our business? How do you make generosity kind of a central piece that everything in your business and the people that work in your business and the people that work around you kind of buy into? How do you make that a central theme?
Yeah, I think that this is where people get confused as they focus on the generosity part. And I would rather focus on, whether coaching or, communicating with friends or family, what is it at the end of the day that you want to do or you feel called to do? And let's narrow that down and focus on that. And in that process, I think there is going to be generosity. But if we, I think what the world and culture just tries to tell us to do is you just be generous. You don't think about it. You just do it. And you give 10% and you just have to give it to somebody. And and that I don't get that, because for me, I see 100% of what has been given to me needs to be used to make the world a better place. And so that with that philosophy, I can't just give 100% blindly to some nonprofit. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of nonprofits that would be like, no, just send us a check for 100% of everything that you have. But it really needs to get down to what at the end of the day do I feel called, and what am I excited about being a part of, and let's figure out and how much of what I have, maybe it's all of it, but how much can I give? And so, I think with business too, it's, what is it at the end of the day you're trying to do? What is your mission? And what do you hope to achieve out of your business? The same thing as with giving. What do you want to do at the end of the day? And if someone said, if someone was feeling that they weren't giving and they couldn't answer that question, I don't know what I want to do with, giving to people, then I would probably say, don't give. Let's figure out what it is that you want to do, and so that you can give and be active in that. I think one story that comes to mind, when I sold my company, there was 4 years ago, there was a large surplus in cash, and man, a lot of people showed up to get their 10% of that. And there were even some Christians that were challenged in the, people had asked, well, you're giving 10%, right? And I didn't even know how to respond, but in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'm giving 100% of everything I have. I've always have given 100%, and I'll continue to give 100%. And that rubbed people the wrong way. A lot of people were like, if you don't cut a check for exactly 10% of what you have to some random, nonprofit or church, then you're living in sin. And it was actually very few people understood what it was that I was trying to do with refocusing my efforts and mindset on life and how I'd make the world a better place, and then deploying all of what I had and all of myself towards that. There were very few people that actually understood that and saw that being a more beneficial and giving outcome.
Yeah, if you just follow a rigid formula like giving 10% and then the rest of the 90% is for you to do whatever you want with, that's not really good stewardship necessarily. But if you were to, give a portion up front, of course, and then use the rest of your money to generate something that's going to generate more down the road for the kingdom, you can have so much of a better return by really investing in people and investing in something that not necessarily has a payoff right away, like maybe a tithe would, but something that's going to invest in people's lives down the road. And there's so many different ways to do that. So I agree with you. It's not about a rigid formula, although there are definitely protocols on how God wants us to give and how He wants us to be generous. But when you do come across a lump of cash, there's a lot of options and a lot of ways you can do some great things that can bring back so much more money than just 10%. So I agree with you.
And we as entrepreneurs are called to kind of redeem the world. And that's really what we're doing. It's like, it's if you think of, like I've said this before, you think of like the Hobby Lobby family, it's amazing what they've given. But in addition to that, they've also supplied 50,000 jobs to people, and the impact of that, and the fact they provide their own health care to all those people. And it's just amazing. Like, all these people are able to go home to a home with a family and provide for them because of this awesome business.
Yeah. What if Hobby Lobby would have stopped after one store and just gave 10%?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, oh, that would just be a drop in the bucket compared to what they're able to do now. And they took that money and they certainly gave up front, I'm sure, but they invested it in things that are going to generate something bigger, and they scaled it bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you think about like the Acts chapter 2 church, how it exploded, and it just it spread in one day. 3,000 people were added, and then weeks and months and years after that, how it spread throughout the world. And it didn't come from just obligated 10% giving back. It took everybody giving their whole lives towards something bigger.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like that idea, Chris, where people challenge you to give 10%. You're saying, no, I got way bigger plans than 10%. Yeah.
Well, and sadly, I think the people that are really pulling for that 10% giving, when you kind of look at what they're asking you to give to at the end of the day, and looking back, I don't think they were a good investment. I think they're under the philosophy or the belief that people are just going to blindly give 10% of the money to them, and they're just out there with their net to receive that. And so to people that feel challenged to give, be wary and be you are a steward of that money. I like your word stewardship when you said that, and you got to be mindful and put some process into place. And if you have any problems with that, then they should reach out to Joe or you, or they can find me somewhere and ask me, how do I give money? And I'll talk to them and make sure they don't. Well, not make sure, but hopefully we can give money to people that are bad investments.
And so, Chris, like as a successful tech entrepreneur from Seattle, what would you say are some of the creative ways that you're able to give and that you've been giving?
So I think in the beginning there was money that was given out. Sadly, the money didn't. I don't see the return that I would have expected from the money and the amounts of money that I gave. Now I think these last 2 years, especially, I've been, utilizing capital to be able to allow myself to do things so that I can work with organizations and work with entrepreneurs. And so it's really, I don't know if the money amounts are less, but really engaging more time-wise. And I think that I've seen the fruits from that far more than writing checks. And so, writing checks goes along with it in donating money. But my time involvement has made a much, much, much larger impact than just blindly giving, or, even just writing checks to people.
Yeah, that's one advantage to being independent, financially independent, is you have a lot of time to give. that there's a lot of value to that because you have a lot to you have a lot to give other people, and a lot to give as far as knowledge and experience and teaching other people to think right and to prioritize and get things lined up the way they're supposed to be, and oftentimes that is worth so much more than just money. So yeah.
And I think the more time I spend with you too, Chris, I realize that it's not magic. Like your success really is a matter of kind of making the right decisions and following the right processes and just seeing things clearly. And as you're helping other people with that, that is definitely more beneficial to them than just writing them a check. Because I could see how that's been beneficial to me in our conversations and in my life.
I agree, and I appreciate that.
All right. Well, hey, Chris, we really appreciate you being on the show, and we thank you for your time. Is there any way people could learn a little bit more about you or what you do, or any contact information that you'd like to share?
They can find me on Facebook. My name's Chris Flugstad, and reach out to me there. I don't really do any other social medias. If they want to get to know me more, they should talk to me or come out to Seattle, and we can, talk face to face and drink some coffee or scotch and go out in a boat.
Sounds great. Well, hey, thanks again. So we are the Superhero Sidekick coaching podcast. My friend Joe and I, we love to coach. We'd love to hear from you. You can contact us by going to superherosidekick.com, or you can check us out on Facebook as well. And we would love to have you subscribe so you can get notices on these podcasts every week when we send them out. We'd also love just to hear your comments but most of all, we just want to engage with you. We want you to get a hold of us so we can make contact and see if there's anything we can do to help you in your journey. So we appreciate you listening, and Joe, thanks for being on. Chris, thanks, and we appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time.